What's up, Leah?
Hey Amber, how's it going?
Hey. Pretty good. So I'm so glad that you decided to do the AMA today because you're hilarious. And then you have all of this prospecting knowledge and like this creative energy that you bring to it that I think that we're just going to learn a lot from you today. Can you introduce yourself to the people?
Yes, to the people. Well, thank you. That was very kind. And I will be giving you a lot of credit and others for all the different things, wacky things I do, because I get most of my ideas from other people, full disclosure. My name is Leah, and I have been in the tech world for about 4 years now. Started off as an AE and then have been in the BDR prospecting role and just love, love, love prospecting. And I'm just excited and I've learned a lot and I'm excited to share and talk with everyone.
Awesome. So the format, you know it, but maybe sometime like some of the people are coming for their first time. I will go on mute and I'll go off screen and I will be like the voice of God telling you timestamps, like how much time you have left, and if you need clarification for a question. Otherwise, I'm just going to leave you with the people to answer questions.
Just
I just
me and
want
the people.
you and the people. I want to shout out Steven because he's the first one to comment. Woo
Steven, love
hoo.
my teammates. Hey, Steven.
Yeah. I think we're going to have a lot of really good questions today. And I'm going to kick you off with the first one, which is just how you got into the tech world and kind of like what was your path into prospecting and what do you love about it? So I'm going to go on mute and there you go.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I'll answer the second question first because that was kind of the order of things. I went through a layoff, which I know is timely, unfortunately, some right now for a lot of people are dealing with this. It was a while ago and had been in a completely different field before that. I designed training for companies and kind of was like, oh God, what am I gonna do? What do I want to do? What's the next role for me? And through an old family friend got into the home security business, and then that's where I got into prospecting and did prospecting for the first time. So I was cold calling, I was going to events, I mean any way to get any kind of clientele, to get anyone to talk with me if they needed a security system, if they needed cameras, anything like that. So did that, and that was in Gainesville, Florida, and got into tech kind of by accident, but I'm very, very grateful I did. The first tech company I worked for is called SharpSpring, and they're based out of Gainesville. Pre-COVID, they didn't want to hire remote, and so they were looking for people. And I had been posting and doing a lot on Facebook and LinkedIn about my security sales, and someone reached out to me, one of the recruiters, and ended up working there. So really, really love it. That's how I got into tech and prospecting. Why do I love prospecting? That is a really great question. I'm not, I like building relationships with people. I like kind of warming up the door. I really like the marketing and sales function and kind of where they interact. And I kind of feel like, at least in the SaaS world, BDRing, prospecting kind of is a nice mix between marketing and sales. Yeah, I kind of love it. As I said to someone, I must like getting yelled at every day on cold calls. Okay, what's the most creative B2B prospecting strategy you have used to land a meeting? Um, I definitely will kind of try whatever. I always double check with my boss at the time just to make sure I'm not stepping too far. But I've been known to dress up in costumes. I have a squirrel costume, I have a bee costume, I have a Elsa from Frozen costume. Um, so I'll do like wacky and ridiculous things to try to break the pattern, break the noise, and get people's attention. But I also will kind of try to do like systems things as well. An example of that is one of my companies I worked for. We had Drift, the software, we used it, and we had the capability where we could see who was coming on our website. And so I would just leave that up all day and would see not specifically individuals, but I would see someone from this domain name, someone from this company is looking at our website. I would go to LinkedIn, find them, get their contact information, and then put them in an outreach sequence. So that was something that no one had really taught us to do from my memory. That was just something I was like, oh, this could be an interesting source of leads, and it really turned out it was. And then the costume ones are just really fun because it's just a fun way to remind everyone that we're human. How do I come up with awesome video prospecting ideas? That's from Alex. Alex, not to make it about you, but you are one of my inspirations. Alex and I meet almost every week and brainstorm and share ideas. Literally, I guess I kind of just get my ideas just from talking to people and just talking to my peers that are doing the same job in the same company as me. I also talk to people who are doing BDRing at other companies or marketing or community or social at other companies, because they're going to give me ideas I wouldn't have thought of and maybe my peers wouldn't have thought of. So that and just, I'm crazy. Okay, Amber, how do you collaborate with other teams to create better outreach? Um, I'd say like the biggest thing for me is I love systems and processes. So, like I just mentioned, Alex and I, we meet almost every week. We have a scheduled meeting. One of our other one of my other awesome colleagues here, Kristen Connor, she is like, if you guys are following her on LinkedIn, you're seeing her amazing content. If you're not, follow her. We meet every about 2 to 3 weeks, and it's on the calendar. It's scheduled. So anytime I can do anything and put a process around it, so I don't have to think about it, I just show up and do it whenever the time's right. Really, really helps me, and specifically with networking and collaborating with my peers. Yes, Alyssa, this is a great question. What are some things sellers can be doing right now to stand out with prospects, given the state of the market? Amazing question. And I really do think to a certain extent, BDRing is about breaking through the noise and standing out regardless of the time, but you're totally right. Right now, it's even more important. So again, and I should say something too about just kind of generally my perspective on things. This is a good Dolly Parton quote. I love Dolly. She's one of our queens in America, but she said, "I don't like to give advice. I like to give people information because everyone's life is different and everyone's journey is different." So that was Miss Dolly Parton. Love that quote. And that's kind of how I'll preface any of the advice I'm getting here. I would talk to and look at what your peers are doing, look at what other people are doing for your buyer persona, your target accounts. If appropriate, and if you think it can get you traction, post on LinkedIn, build a community on LinkedIn. If you don't feel comfortable posting, network, comment on people's posts, have a reaction to their posts, any kind of networking, if appropriate for your buyer persona and ICP targets that you can do on LinkedIn, I would say 100% take advantage of that, because it's amazing the reach you can have that way. And I would just kind of always be thinking about how you could switch things up. Like, generally speaking, just what could you do? How could you stand out? What might work? And this reminds me, Amber, you wrote a post not long ago kind of about failure and, putting yourself out there and trying things. And that's, I feel like, what a lot of prospecting and sales and, life is about, just generally speaking. I do a lot of things that get no reaction. I do a lot of things that people love. I do a lot of things people are like, that I didn't like that, don't do that, in terms of prospecting. So it's just kind of always wanting to like iterate and stand out, and just keep asking yourself, like, how can I do that for my specific situation and who I'm selling to? Courtney, what's the most ridiculous thing you've filmed for a prospecting video? Courtney, I don't know if I ever sent this to you, but this was before you were here, but I will. I got fully dressed and went in the shower and dumped water on my head for a prospecting video, for several prospecting videos. I just did that over the summer. So I'll send that to anyone that wants to see those. Those did not get me any meetings. So talk about failures and being cold and wet. Yes, Sarah, you are 100%. Like, that's a softball. Sarah knows the answer to this question. Yes, my cat has helped me land multiple demos. She's sleeping right now, so she's not decided to make an appearance here. But yeah, I think I first started using my cat in some of my videos at SharpSpring. So that was at the first SaaS company I did prospecting for, and dressed up as a squirrel. Yeah, anything you can do to just humanize yourself, humanize your company, and make a respectful professional connection. And, even at times be a little goofy. Emily, love that question. This is assuming I do stay mentally tough when faced with objections. So, Emily was asking, how do I stay mentally tough with dealing with objections? Dude, like, work in progress, right? Sales is like getting, in my opinion, any type of sales, whether you're prospecting, whether you're an AE closing a deal, whether you're trying to find a job, whatever you're trying to sell. I think sales is kind of this field where you will 100% fail more than you will succeed. And it's kind of like getting punched in the gut on a regular basis. So, for me personally, I just like to have a huge network of people that I can turn to both in my professional life and my personal life to get their input, to get their advice. Take care of yourself, however you got to do that. I have a really supportive family and a group of friends. So just try to get up and fight another day. It's not a perfect answer, Emily, just because I'm not perfect at it by any means. Ooh, Courtney, what's my favorite Dolly Parton song? God, that's a hard one. Jolene's awesome. 9 to 5 is awesome. And people check me because I'm not sure how accurate this little anecdote is, but I'm pretty sure Dolly Parton wrote "I Will Always Love You" before she wrote that song.
That is
And sang
accurate.
it before Whitney's. Yeah, so that's one of my favorites too. Thank you for double checking me, Amber.
Happy to confirm.
Oh, yeah, Trinity, that is a great question. Yes, prospecting best practices change every year. What are 3 things that were not best practices but are now? Okay, this is a test. I don't know if I can think of 3, but not to answer your question in the reverse way, Trinity, but I will. So last year, when I was doing a lot of prospecting, there was kind of this trend that was going around with lowercasing the subject line, the words in the subject line of an email, because that kind of seemed more casual and that kind of would break through the noise and maybe get someone to open that email. And last year, and I even want to say earlier this year, I would do that and I would see greater response rates, greater open rates to those emails that I had done that with. Now, though, that's really, from what I'm hearing from the people at Lavender and what I'm seeing from their tools, that's not really breaking through the noise anymore. So that's one of the exciting but also really frustrating things about prospecting is how do you keep knowing when to change and knowing when something might work or might not. Just like such a small thing, when do you use capitalization and title cases in your subject lines of your emails or do you not? And now I think it is, you do use title case, like you capitalize. If anyone else has any other thoughts to answer Trinity's question, because I'm drawing a blank on 3 things that weren't, but that are now.
Yeah, 3 was very specific.
Trinity, you're like, you failed.
It was a tough question.
It was.
I'm checking in because we're at almost 15 minutes, so you're about halfway through. So I'm just going to keep sending you questions.
Who is my favorite Spice Girl, Alex? I don't know. That's a really good question. Can I say all of them? Because I'm going to say all of them. I don't want to pick a favorite. This is an amazing question. God, that's a really, God, if I, Elisa, if I could go back and do it all again, would I still pick sales? That's such a good question. And maybe my slow response is telling of an answer. Yeah, no, I like sales. I really like sales a lot. I love the business world. I love marketing. Uh, this is kind of going to make me sound like a nerd, but this is true. At my elementary school, the county that I went to elementary school, they had this thing called Enterprise Village, and you got to go there one day. You're in one day your class got to go in fifth grade, like all the classes got to go and do this um, at this place and in the county. And it was like, so we were fifth grade, so what, 10? And we got to like, there was like a McDonald's in there. Someone got to be the manager of the McDonald's. Someone got to be the manager of the bank. I was the manager of the bank. I got to write checks and do payroll for all of my employees that day. And it was this really great program. I still think Pinellas County does it, Enterprise Village. Yeah, I loved it. And then I got a chance to go back the next year for 2 extra days, and it was like the highlight of my life. So yes, I do really like business, and sales and marketing are a huge part of business. So I think I'd still do it. How do I bring empathy into the prospecting process? Um, I think I just try to remind myself first that we are all humans, and like, and I'm not perfect at this, and I have done so many like bad prospecting things, right? Like pitch slapping or things like that. So I'm guilty of all of that. Um, but the more time I spend in prospecting and sales at a larger context, the more that I really think, and not that this is my idea, but the more that I realize when people say that people want to interact with people and they want humanity, I just think that's true. And so I think the more I can just kind of be like, hey, I'm a person and you're a person. Would it make sense to talk? Come with that attitude. I think that's how I bring the empathy in here. And, we all have other things going on. I mean, there's so many other things going on in all of our lives. So I think it's just important to kind of hold that awareness for myself. That's a great question. And Sarah knows me too well. Being a fairly long term ADR, or that's another term for SDR or BDR, how have you kept it fresh and how do you avoid burnout in the role? Excellent question, Sarah. Still a work in progress. um, but yeah, I will say this, building a community and talking to different people like all the time, internally in my company and externally, that really, really helps me keep it mentally fresh because I'm not having to think of all these ideas myself. I'm like going to a pavilion class or I'm talking to one of my friends. Like I'm still good friends with several of the people I worked at Sharp Spring, my first tech company, and still very good friends with a lot of people I worked at my second company, Grim. So when I keep in relationship with those people and we keep talking about the role, like it's kind of, I just, because I'm in relationship with them, they give me fresh ideas and we get to like share ideas back and forth. Um, so honestly, I think that's how I also avoid burnout is just like making connections with people and getting new ideas from them and helping them wherever I can. But a lot of times I'm getting a lot of help too. Hey Taylor, can you share your favorite cold call opener and why you think it works? So I'll share the one that I've been using since about October, and I think it works just because it, you know, brings humanity to and kind of pokes fun and kind of pattern interrupts the whole cold call process. And I got this idea from Beck Holland, so this was not my idea. The pattern interrupt. Josh Braun's huge on it too, but basically kind of calling out the elephant in the room in a like kind and respectful, and if you can, and if you feel comfortable with it, in like a little goofy or silly way. So what I've been doing is saying, hey, is this so and so? And then they say, yeah. And I just kind of full, just like, I'm like, hey, this is Leah Fraser from UserGems. Full disclosure, this is a cold call. I know you might not like getting cold calls. I'm not the biggest fan of making them. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. And, that I think works so well because it's just such a pattern interrupt of like, hey, you're a human, I'm a human. I think I'm giving a nod to, hey, you're probably in the middle. I mean, I'm not saying this, but you might not like getting cold calls because they might be in the middle of a million things. They might be dealing with personal things, work things. They might be, I mean, I've cold called people who were like, I'm stranded on the side of the road. I thought you were AAA. So I think that's why it works, because it just kind of takes down that third wall and kind of is like, hey, like, is this a cool time? And would you give me the 20 seconds just to like listen? And most people do. Chat. Ooh, okay. You mentioned being a fan of processes. What do you think is the number one habit of successful ADRs? Awesome question, Chad. I'm going to steal from my manager, Sarah, because we were talking about this. And I don't really think there's any like silver bullet when it comes to sales or prospecting, meaning that there's going to be one thing, kind of like Trinity brought up, and I was talking about before. I just haven't found one thing that executed in the exact same way keeps working over time. So you got to kind of keep fresh. But to answer your question, I think consistency is key. And that's what Sarah kind of pointed out to me, my manager, when we were talking a couple weeks ago. I think consistency is really key. Whether that, and everyone's organization is different and prospecting is different in all these different realms. But if you have a certain number of call metrics that you should be making to hit quota, do it and do those call metrics every week or more. Or if you have a certain number of accounts you need to add, do that every day, do that every week, do it every hour chunk. Like, just keep your activity constant, because I think that is one of the things that can make the lows not as low when we go through months where we hit quota and we go through months where we don't. What's a recent win that I'm super proud of, either professionally or personally? Saying the word professionally. No, that's such a good question. I am just really proud of the community that people I have. I guess both in my professional network and my personal network. Relationships are really important to me. So I just feel really grateful for all these people that I have in my life. I'm really thankful. What's my favorite thing to do when I'm not working? Love hanging out with people, love spending time with my cat, although she's not making an appearance today. What else? I like to knit. I like to use coloring books. I know. I like to watch documentaries. Most of you have probably heard me ramble on and on about the latest documentary I watched. I love documentaries. What frustrates me most about outbound? God, what frustrates me most about outbound? Um, and I'd like to say differently, but I still, and it's less, and it depends on the day, but I think just with outbound sales, I was talking to someone the other day. They're a BDR at a different company. Like, it just, I wish, a hang up didn't like bother me, and it still does. It's like still my guts like, no, I pick up the phone and keep dialing, right? And that the hang up bothers me, or the rejection bothers me less than it did, for sure. So I'm like getting more tolerance to it. But yeah, like, I just wish that would go away completely. I would love that. Do I have any book or podcast recommendations? I do. I have a lot. Well, shameless plug for UserGems. And maybe Amber, you can put some more details in the chat about this, but we just partnered with 30 Minutes to President Club, and we're sponsoring their podcast. So definitely check that out. Love Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Read his book several years ago and just thought it was amazing. He's got a couple courses that I haven't taken, but I want to sign up and take, about the art of negotiating. Beth Holland, she's on LinkedIn. Kristen Connor, UserGem, she's on LinkedIn. This isn't so much for SaaS, but kind of like in the general sales kind of motivational things. Brian Buffini, he's a sales trainer for realtors. I really like his work. And I'm sure there's others that I'm forgetting right now. Sarah said, how do you deal with abusive prospects? The mean ones. Sarah, I've never had anyone say anything mean to me at all while prospecting. So I can't answer that question. No, that's obviously a joke. I really like I go back to kind of my network, and I'll if like, say they're abusive and there's something that I think about it and like, oh, I could have done differently with that call or with that email. Most of the times I'll go to my manager, like in a run by the email I sent or that, get my manager's feedback. Cause like, especially at my job, I don't want to be, you know, having a prospect mad because of something specifically like that I did and that I shouldn't have done. So normally I always get my manager's feedback. And then, Sarah's my manager. So get to vent a little bit, maybe cry a little bit, just, whoever, talk to my mom, talk to my cat, just again, reaching out to my community and taking care of myself. Cause, uh, you know, prospecting and sales is I think one of the reasons I like it so much is that it's this very interesting field where you could be perfect at it, like literally perfect, and get yelled at or not close the deal or have someone not show up to your demo, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like that constant kind of test and constant like falling and getting back up that I think is very challenging, but I guess I really like.
That's awesome. I love that your cat's part of your community.
Yeah. Oh, she's like Amber. She's like the community. Like
The community, the main
yeah,
one.
she's
I have
like the
one.
main one.
I have one more question for you, and then I'm going to pop back on the screen, and we'll wrap up.
Awesome. Yeah, Danny. Do I ever get nervous? Yes. And if so, do what I get over it all the time, Danny. Like all the time, nervous. Again, kind of going back to like whatever my specific like coping mechanisms and community is. For example, self-disclosure. Last night I was really excited about doing this AMA, but I was also nervous. So I was like, God, da 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 da. So I was like, okay, well, what can I do about it? Talked with my husband a little bit about it, and then just kind of put it in a box. And like we watched some TV, we had dinner, I spent time with my cat, I talked to my mom. I did these things that were really helpful to me and appropriate at the time. And I went to bed and then, here I am and we're doing it. And, hopefully it hasn't been a complete train wreck. So I think just reaching out to the people who, people I trust in my life, I trust they'll be honest, and also helpful and have my back. And then, just taking care of what I can and trying to distract myself the rest of the time.
I have a little bit of a follow-up to that question because,
Yeah.
like, I was also wondering, do you get nervous before picking up the phone? And what do you do in that, like, immediate moment when you're going to hit dial?
100% I do. 100%. So what I try to do before picking up the phone, one thing that helps me is going through kind of like my opener and some of the things I kind of say. One thing I've been specifically doing here at UserGems for our cold calling that's very, very helpful and kind of gets my mind really focused is we use this dialer called Orem, and you can it will also pop up their LinkedIn page at the same time. So I do that. And as it's ringing, I'm looking to see what their last job change was. And I'm like relating that back to UserGems and our product so that I can throw in a personalized example. So that actually really helps calm my nerves too, because I have to, while the phone's ringing, I guess I could do it before I call, but it really helps me focus, to be like, okay, what am I going to say? Who is this person? What job change did they just most recently have? So anything like that you can get your mind focused around or pumped on practice, I think is really good for me.
Yeah, it sounds like you really do rely on system. Like, even if that's not a system that you have written down in Notion or whatever, it's a system that you follow mentally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Amber, you're 100. I like my systems and to-do lists.
Love it. I love it. This was amazing. I think that we had a lot of really great questions, and you did a killer job at answering them. And I'm not blowing smoke. I promise.
You blow smoke.
Do you have anything you want to wrap up with? Like, everyone go listen to Dolly Parton or go follow Leah?
Yeah. Follow me, listen to Dolly Parton, and then everyone buy UserGems, right? You all need to get your companies to buy UserGems, I think, basically.
Yeah. And I think that's a wrap on that. All right. So thanks everyone for being here, and follow UserGems, buy UserGems, follow Leah. and go listen to a Dolly Parton song.
Yeah, your
have,
pick.
have a good afternoon.
Bye. Thanks, guys.